This is another video I'm releasing in a series on how to make currency at League Start. Hi, it's Larold, and in this video I'm going to talk about Expedition, one of my favorite mechanics in PoE, and just why it's so good at the start of a league. It's great for both currency farming and making gear, and that makes it super appealing early on. Before I do, don't forget to like and subscribe. Alright, what makes Expedition special? It is kind of a perfect example of PoE's more modern game design. It has multiple gameplay loops, it has unique rewards, and it has a good deal of complexity to it. But ultimately, what you do is you kill guys and you collect loot. In terms of what it creates, it gives you a combination of regular currency, you know, the normal stuff that you trade with other players like Chaos Orbs and Divines and Vol Orbs, but also a set of like special currency that you use for trading with NPCs to get that kind of stuff, and a guided semi-tutorialized random gear crafting process. In terms of whether it's fun or not, I think it's one of the most fun league mechanics at the start of a league. So yes, it is fun. In terms of what you do, you find expeditions in your maps along with one of the 4 expedition NPCs, Gwyn, Rog, Tujin, or Danik. You set explosives around the area, then you blow them up. Exploding them will blow up remnants, which apply both like reward increases and also damage defensiveness increases to the enemies that are in the explosions. And also it'll free buried treasure and buried monsters. You kill all of the freshly exhumed skeletons and open the treasure chests, and they'll have all the normal loot you would expect from a treasure chest, as well as artifacts, the special currency that corresponds to the expedition NPC whose expedition you are running. Artifacts are account-wide, but they can't be traded with other players, so they are automatically picked up, and this is good quality of life. The reward structure of Expedition is fairly simple. You basically just farm artifacts in order to get free money, and then the gameplay loop is sometimes a little bit more complex than that. I have a sample expedition I've already set up here, so I'm just going to dive right into it, blow it up, and loot these guys. I'm just going to double check and make sure I didn't accidentally turn on any horrible downsides. Doesn't really look like it, so let's get to it. Just show off blowing up an expedition and killing all the dudes. Okay, and there we go. That's pretty much all there is to it when it comes to doing an expedition, mechanically anyways. Now all the guys are dead. They did give me some artifacts, and I'm gonna loot all the treasure chests, and then because we're at the end of a league, I'm gonna leave all that gear, all that stuff on the ground, and just keep talking about this mechanic. All right, this is the point where I would normally talk about cost, and as you can see, I've teleported, not only through space, but through time, and that's because I recorded most of this other stuff that has remained true before the patch announcement, and now the patch announcement has come and told us that basically scarabs are being completely reworked, sextants are gone, and the atlas is redesigned. We don't exactly know what scarabs entail yet. We'll find that out soon enough, and I'm sure it'll be exciting and interesting, but at least at this point, there basically is no cost other than Atlas passive points. Now let's talk about the profitability of this as a strategy. In terms of the bubblegum currency it creates, that is basically the main appeal. It just kind of slaps you in the face with a fistful of random currency drops. Chaos, vols, alks, chisels, all kinds of stuff. In terms of like selling that, usually that's not even something you need to do. You kind of do need a decent supply of all of those types of currency, so it's good to do this strategy just to get a lot of different stuff that you need, and if anything, it kind of cuts down the amount of time that you need to spend trading with other people to pick up those kinds of currency that you need a bunch of, like jeweler's orbs and chisels and alchemy orbs that you wouldn't necessarily want to pick up one by one or trade with other people to get them either. It also doesn't require TFT or any sort of third-party site to function effectively. Not that there isn't always like some level of optimization available there, but it's definitely not necessary. In terms of the time investment, it is a pretty fast-paced mechanic, as you can see from the little demo there. You blow up the expedition, then you kill all the guys and you leave. It's really that quick. That is sort of the goal, speed. Speed is kind of everything here. And best of all, it doesn't pull you away from regular mapping. This is a strategy that you want to do in tier 16 maps if you can manage to do them in tier 16 maps. Eventually, that is the goal. Do it in tier 16 maps. It does scale with quantity and rarity and all of that kind of stuff. So you want to do it at a high level, and that means you're not getting pulled away from regular mapping like you would with a low level strategy like Essence or Beasts. Now I want to take a look at the Atlas nodes, and we'll just start with some of the basic questions. Are they good? Yes, very, especially now that they're being buffed in patch 3.24. They're insanely good, but even before they were still mechanically very good. The investment cost of them is also fairly low, and the pathing is efficient. You can really combine this with a lot of different right side of the tree strategies, since it is all right side stuff. You can combine it with Jun or Reach, Legion. A lot of options are available here for combining Expedition in a useful way. So with the patch, they are massively buffing the amount of chance to spawn a given League mechanic type. And so this set of nodes that take you to hunt for answers is now insanely valuable, granting just on its own 52% chance to get an expedition encounter. Now you also have a baseline 8% chance, so just from this wheel, like if you not that I think this is the optimal way to start out, but if you just put your first 7 points into coming here, you could have a 60% chance to have an expedition encounter in every single map just off of that very low investment alone. That's really, really good. Now Extreme Archaeology is kind of like one of the best League mechanic nodes available, one of the best League mechanic keystones available. It makes it so that you only have one explosive, and then the radius on that explosive is massively increased. You get 10% of monster life knocked off when you blow them out of the ground, which is useful because you're going to be blasting them all out at once, and then you also get increased explosive placement range for that one explosive. So this allows you to, obviously you move through the expeditions a lot faster by doing this, like much, much, much faster. It is more dangerous, you know, you're blasting all the monsters out at once and you're affecting them all with the remnants. All of the remnants are affecting every single monster, but this is good for getting more logbooks out of your expeditions. It is really, really valuable for that purpose because every single good remnant node that you're getting is going to affect every single monster instead of only the ones that are further down the chain. Ancient Writings adds a lot more juice onto all of the remnants, so it's really good to pick up as well. You can pick up the vendor reroll currency chance small passive here. That's just like one node, but that's useful to pick up. And I would probably pick up this expedition chance node if I were just pathing through the tree, like in a sort of a league start situation where I'm constrained on points. I would pick this up until I'm able to cap my chance out later. I would just grab that initially and then drop it because it's not helping with pathing, but useful for kind of the start of the league. So next I would want to come up here to Buried Knowledge, and again, unless I'm already up to the point where I'm using scarabs for every map or whatever, I would take those chance to contain an encounter nodes, and then I would take Buried Knowledge. Buried Knowledge gives you a 50% increased quantity of logbooks, which is really useful. Logbooks are kind of the most valuable thing that runic monsters drop consistently. And then also you get 20% increased number of runic monsters, so you're kind of getting it from both sides. You're getting more guys to drop valuable stuff, and you're getting more stuff that's valuable dropped from the guys. So really good multiplicative effects out of this one notable here. Finally, I would come over and take Scratching Up the Ground, and as you can see here, once we get to this number, this last one, this last expedition chance, we give our maps a chance, or guaranteed, to contain an expedition encounter, but they actually already were before we took this node. See, we were at 92% chance, and we have a baseline 8% chance, unless GGG has hidden some sort of nerf to the baseline chance of expeditions spawning in maps, which isn't impossible, but like if you're at this point 92% and you have an expedition encounter in every single map, it's probably the same unchanged. I don't know why they would change it, right? Just something to watch out for. At this point, if you're putting that node in here, then I would take the small passive out here. No point in wasting. You can't get 2 expeditions on one map unless they've hidden that on us. So right. You would want to drop that and then take Scratching Up the Ground at a noble quest, and that just makes it so your expeditions are way more likely to have Tujin or Danig running them, and that makes them more profitable. That's really all there is to this wheel here. You definitely do want to come up and get it just because there are some useful small passives. A little bit more in the way of artifacts isn't really like that valuable, but more vendor refresh currency, it's useful. And again, just making it so that every expedition you run into in your maps is giving you the most valuable set of artifacts and vendor refresh currency by either being for Danig or Tujin really helps. You really do run into a lot fewer Gwynin and Rog expeditions in your maps by taking these 2 notables in this wheel. And that's it. As you can see, it's pretty cheap. I did skip over Distinguished Demolitionist, and that's because it has not negative synergy, but it's basically just completely overshadowed by Extreme Archaeology. It used to be really good. It used to be really valuable. It would add an extra explosive into your maps. That was very good. In the olden days, when you were using scarabs, that would add basically a second explosive. You would get 7, and then you would have a whole chain of things, but that's all been just completely blown away by extreme archaeology, and it is better this way. And so you don't really need these teeny tiny little bonuses out of Distinguished Demolitionist since you have extreme archaeology. It's not impossible to like notice the difference, but it's usually so small that it doesn't really matter. And so then you have a lot of freedom to pick up other things. Like I think, as I've said elsewhere, that I think I'm really interested in running a Jund strategy. And so like you could very easily pick up a bunch of Jund nodes to go with this. The pathing is really, really easy from Expedition over to Jund. As you can see, we've picked up basically every single thing we would want from Jund and Expedition in this passive tree, and we've only spent not even half of our points. You know, we have a little bit over half of our points left to spend on tons of other stuff throughout the tree. So it's a really, really good strategy from the perspective of like Atlas passive point efficiency, in addition to being a good League mechanic. In terms of scaling with map tier and difficulty and quantity, Expedition in your maps does do all of that. So you want to run higher map tiers once you're able. Expedition is still useful at lower levels, so it's totally fine to do this even as like a white map strategy, but ultimately your goal will be to do this as a tier 16 map strategy, and you want to chisel and alch all of your maps. Optimally, you want to evolve them as well to try and get even more quantity, but that's not quite as required as at least chiseling, alching, and running high tier maps. And also, just to kind of reiterate, you do want to use all the Eldritch Altar, Quant, and Rarity mods as well. All right, so what is our goal in Expedition? Our main goal is to farm for logbooks. The priority number 1 really is just to kill as many runic monsters in each expedition and farm for logbooks. In fact, I am going to show off a map as I'm doing this. So we have blue altars on. You don't have to do blue. You can do red. I just like blue more. Blue tends to give more quantity and rarity. Red tends to give more raw currency, so red can be better at the start of a league, but I prefer either. That's it. So we'll throw this in and we'll kind of go around. The first thing that we do in the map is, for me, I like to boss rush so that I can get as many quant and rarity modifiers as possible from the Eldritch Altars. So I'm just gonna boss rush here. I like maps like Mesa or Dunes or Crimson Temple where I kind of know where the boss is so that I can very easily boss rush. And then what I do is I just clear out the map. Just clear the whole map out, get every Eldritch Altar I possibly can. If I have some other League mechanics in there like Essence or whatever else, then I guess I'll do them. Ugh, T16, very juicy Essence. Very time consuming. All right, well, anyway. So ultimately, we're just going to kind of bounce around, clear everything out, do everything we can to get as much quantity and rarity as we possibly can before we get over to that expedition. And I do want to say one other thing here, which is that runic monsters scale really well with quantity, as I've said, but they also scale really well with pack size. So anything you can do to increase pack size is really good for expeditions. Just stuff like pack size on unidentified maps as a sextant, or taking grand design or growing hordes in your Atlas passive tree can be really helpful as well. If you're taking growing hordes, then you probably want to use a bunch of like cheapo scarabs and then just do everything you can to force increasing the chance of expeditions showing up in your maps. Generally, I think you can get something like 48% chance for expeditions to be added to your maps from small passive nodes. So when you combine that with the 8% base chance, that's over 50% chance. So that's pretty good. We haven't quite full cleared the map. Normally I would make sure I've full cleared, like not 0 monsters remain, but you know, make sure I'm under 50 remaining. Okay, well, anyway, that's fine. Obviously, don't know totally for sure yet what Necropolis League's mechanic is going to be, but if there is any sort of way, I really don't think it's going to be a mechanic that has any sort of direct mapping interaction, considering the last league that we had. But if it does, if in some way it increases the amount of stuff that you get in your maps, then obviously you would want to layer that onto this as well. Anything that increases quantity, rarity, and pack size is really good. And then once we're here at the expedition, we want to check around and look for build disabling modifiers. Like, because I'm playing a lightning strike build, monsters are immune to lightning damage. We really don't want that. There are some other things like monsters have a chance to avoid all damage from hits. That can be pretty bad if you're playing a hit-based build. Monsters overwhelm 100% physical damage reduction. That can be bad if you're playing an armor-based build. So you want to look around for these and make sure you're not taking anything that will completely make them immune to you or make it so that they will just instantly kill you. Like monster attacks penetrate or overwhelm 100% physical damage reduction, and then also monster attacks can't be avoided. That's a really nasty combo if you're playing a build that uses like Grace and Determination to stay alive. There is one that I don't see here, unfortunately, which says monsters are immune to curses. This overrides hexproof for occultists and for like any way where you're able to curse hexproof enemies. Well, if they're immune, then the curse will like apply, but it won't do anything to them. So it effectively just doesn't work. So you definitely want to be cognizant of that. I as somebody who has played a lot of occultist over the years and really likes expedition, they are a bad combination on that front. Really just that one modifier is very build disabling though. There are some other things that occultist does really well. For example, like every 4 seconds, runic monsters regenerate 30% of life over 1 second. If you're able to make enemies have less regeneration due to Soul of Rizlatha's enhancement, enemies have reduced life regen rate, or you're just playing an occultist, some way that you can prevent that from happening, that just totally stops that modifier. Okay, so I've looked around. I have looked for bad modifiers, then I want to look for good modifiers. Things like increased pack size are good. Monsters dropping corrupted items is bad. Okay, I'm just looking through my notes here. I would say that the most powerful positive effects on the remnants are pack size, increased item quantity, increased number of logbooks, increased item of rarity. There's also a chance for monsters to drop stacked decks, which can be good. You might get a dozen stacked decks out of a single expedition just off of that alone. Now, chests can't drop logbooks, only runic monsters, and that is why we care so much more about monsters than chests. So this is ready to go. I'm just going to go ahead and pop it, and we're locked in. We're going. We're exploding. Let's just kill all these dudes. Any sort of build that can clear through trash pretty easily and is a little bit tanky is going to do very well here. And excellent, we got a logbook. So that's cash money right there. It is not a great logbook. It is a straight Gwynin logbook, which is definitely the worst possible kind, but still at the start of a league, that's pretty useful. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now we would just clean up all the remaining valuable rewards here, and then we would get out of the map, and then we would run another map and just do that over and over and over again. Okay, now I want to talk about the expedition NPCs, because each of them is also a vendor, in addition to being a guy who stands by and cheers you on while you're doing an expedition, and you can trade with each of them in your hideout. Each NPC sells you stuff for their various currencies, and they have a refresh currency that you can use to reset their trade windows. The refresh currency is tradable with other players, unlike the artifacts, and farming those can be a strategy just on its own. Let's start with Gwynin. She's kind of the least valuable one. I'll just do a little demo here. She is a gambling machine, basically. So you can buy leather belts, you can buy heavy belts from her, and you can hope that they are a headhunter or a mage blood, and then they won't be. And, you know, she's basically just a big old waste of time. The main value for her really is just like for Reddit posts, so people could say like, I ran through 50,000 Astragali with Gwynin and I never got anything valuable and my wrist hurts. And yeah, that's basically what she does. She is not a good use of time. But you know, hey, your mileage may vary. Maybe you'll get lucky to get a mage blood off the first one. Rog is the second least useful NPC. He is a lot more useful than Gwynin, though. He is sort of a guided pseudo crafting machine, I guess. He kind of makes random crap, but some of it can be useful. So, especially at the league start, the main things that he makes that are useful are like boots and rings, and those would be like boots with move speed, life, and maybe a resistance or a stat on them, rings with life and some resistances or stats, and it's kind of RNG. You kind of want to look and see like, is this a useful base? Ancient Greaves, armor boots, they're okay. He has some move speed and some life on them. I'll open these up and just try and see if I can do anything with this. And then what he does is basically just very literal, upgrade the level of 2 modifiers by 1 tier. Which modifiers are they going to be? Are they going to be the move speed and the life, or are they going to be something else? I don't know. Let's see. Maybe it's the move speed and the life. Okay. Remove a single modifier with the lowest modifier level. That is indicated in orange. He's going to remove that life. I'm willing to do that because it's such a low level life. And now, all right, remove all prefix mods. Well, the prefixes aren't really great on this, so I'm going to just try it. We didn't get a good fake prefix added on there. Let's try adding a suffix, and okay, reroll prefixes 10 times, keeping the best outcome. Maybe we can get some life and move speed here. We didn't. I don't really want to re-roll the modifier values. That's basically divine orbing the prefixes and then keeping the best one. I'm going to skip that. I'm going to re-roll the prefixes entirely. As we see, we'll lose that T1 armor, but maybe we'll get some life or move speed. We did get life. Cool. And now the option here is to basically divine the suffixes. Yeah, see, these boots are pretty bad. So, you try. Ultimately, you kind of want to just fly through crafting stuff with ROG. Like, you could throw move speed, just crafted move speed onto these boots and call it a day. There's something. These right here are some boots I crafted just a little bit ago with ROG while I was kind of setting up for this. And as you can see, they have life, they have fire res, they have T2 move speed, and then they had an empty suffix. And I just took them like that, and then I crafted a suffix onto them. So getting, what is this, 75 elemental resist, and then like T3 life and T2 move speed on some boots just randomly from ROG at the start of a league, that could be pretty valuable. You might be able to sell those for a divine or so. Not too bad. So ROG is useful, but I think he does drop off in value fairly quickly. I know sometimes you will see deep into a league Reddit posts of somebody with an insane spine bow or some sort of insane triple T1 prefix weapon that they crafted with ROG, and I'll say good for them on that, but generally speaking, he tends to generate a lot of just kind of random garbage, so I would say not really all that useful most of the time. All right, Tujin's our next NPC, and he likes to haggle for stuff. He kind of sells a whole wide variety of junk. I mean, basically just random crap. It'll be anywhere from currency to like weird special currencies like catalysts, or sometimes he'll even include maps and heist contracts and heist blueprints and map fragments, just a lot of random stuff. This current page that I have with Tujin has 2 different Alhesman maps, which is pretty crazy. It also has some chaos. My general rule for Tujin is I'll buy anything from him that's worth at least a couple chaos. So 2 chaos, that's a couple chaos, I'll buy that. Screaming Essence of Fear, that's maybe a couple chaos, I'll buy that as well. Now, when you're haggling with him, a lot of people might try to like min-max it and get every single penny out of it. You don't really want to do that. The point of Tujin, in terms of maximizing his profitability, is really just kind of to fly through the trade. So you want to offer him, if he wants like 100, you can offer him like 60, 65, and he'll usually take that on the first go. And that's really what you're looking for. Somewhere in the 60 to 75% of his initial asking price is basically all you want to offer him. And then you're good to go. You can use him to kind of restock on like bubblegum crap currency that is maybe not, like maybe you're low on alks or something and it's not really worth it to you to like go like trade with somebody else. You can just kind of use Tujin to resupply on those. It's not necessarily the most efficient currency per hour, but it can kind of save you the headache of having to like message people to get somebody to trade you some alks. So that is something I will do occasionally, even though I know it's not quite as profitable. The real limiting factor on Tujin is going to be the greater Black Scythe artifacts usually, and then more importantly, the exotic coinage. Like once you've kind of gotten into a good rhythm with doing Tujin, you're going to find that you run out of exotic coinage and greater Black Scythe artifacts first. Danig is our 4th and most valuable of the NPCs, and what he does is he trades you discounted currency for the other guys. So he'll trade you Tujin currency for like a significant discount, and that'll be down here at the bottom. He sells you just like 1-to-1 his currency to other NPCs currency up top. You don't really want to engage with that for the most part. You want to buy the cheaper stuff, and you specifically want to buy Tujin. You can buy ROG, but I never would. I would only buy Tujin rewards, and he'll also sell you the reroll currency, the refresh currency, so I like to buy all of those for Tujin. I like to buy all of Tujin's Black Scythe artifacts, and that is the main thrust of what you get out of Danig. He will also sometimes sell logbooks. I have unfortunately burned through all of my Danig currency, but like buying logbooks from him is really, really good. That is far and away the most valuable thing he offers. But it basically goes logbooks, reroll currency, and then Tujin, just artifacts in general. Those are the main things that you get from Danig. All right, now I want to shift over to talking about logbooks. Logbooks drop from runic monsters in your expeditions and your maps, and they can be purchased from Danig. Logbooks are basically a map, but the only thing in the map is a giant expedition. Logbooks are valuable At the start of a league, they may be so valuable that it is worth using bestiary to split them. Like if they are meaningfully more expensive than a split beast, I would do that. But I would do that if it's like, you know, a split beast is like 25 chaos and a logbook is 50 chaos, absolutely. If a split beast is 35 and a logbook is 40, I'm not going to waste my time. You can roll all the mods on an expedition logbook. You can roll their quantity up just like a map, and you should, because that'll increase the amount of rewards that they give. They also have implicit modifiers, as you can see at the top of the tooltip here. They will give you things like more explosives or larger explosion radius. Both of those are really useful for excavating more rewards in the logbook. Logbooks give you the option of 2 or 3 different expeditions to choose from, like just to go to my expedition altar to show off. This one has Druids of the Broken Circle, Black Scythe Mercenaries, and Order of the Chalice. Those correspond to Gwynin, Tujin, and Rog, respectively. And then, like, you know, I have one here that's just double Druids of the Broken Circle. Not as good. Double Gwynin, no thank you. So just like in maps, you want to get Danig most. That is the highest priority. But Tujin is also very good, and Rog is okay. There's a ton of complexity to logbooks. I could probably make an hour-long video about them, and maybe someday I will. But for now, let's keep it short and sweet. The main goal of logbooks is to farm up expedition artifacts. You can get a ton of them quickly through logbooks. This is why Danig and Tujin are the best. They both fuel getting more raw currency from Tujin. You don't really care about runic monsters or reliquaries as much in logbooks either. You want to focus on treasure chests that have artifacts in them, underground areas, and bosses. Now, if you run into any of the remnants, not reliquaries, if you run into any of the remnants that increase the quantity of artifacts that you get from chests or monsters, that's useful. If you run into a remnant that gives monsters a chance to drop stacked decks, that can be useful too. But the main thing you want to do is just make sure that you're not activating anything that's build disabling. So I'll show off opening one up now. You open them up at Danig rather than your map device, and you choose the one that you want to run. And we want to do Black Scythe Mercenaries. That's Tujin, so we're going to do that. And I'm just double checking to make sure I haven't chosen anything that is build disabling. No build disabling modifiers here. Okay, great. So like with expeditions, remnants will apply to everything after an explosion chain. We don't get the one giant explosive in this because we're not in a map, we're in a logbook. So that's okay. We do have to then, like, okay, yeah, see, first thing I see is a lightning damage immune, and I do all lightning damage, so we don't really want to play with that. Increased quantity of artifacts found in excavated chests can be useful. Chance to block, attack, and spell damage. I do deal direct attack damage, so that can be a little gross, but I'm going to take it anyway. I'm feeling like screwing around. Okay, so the first thing we want to check for when we get into our logbook is we want to look around for these icons, these glowing blue and white icons. Those are underground areas, and we want to make sure that we hit all of the underground areas in an expedition logbook as we're going through. We also want to look for like weird little side areas like this one over here on my mini map. I'll walk over to it. And if we path our way over here with an explosive, we'll see, and I will make a point to path over here. When we mouse over this area will light up green. This door will light up green specifically. That indicates that we can blow it up, and there will be some treasure chests behind that. We don't know what they are, but there are enough that it's worth blowing up all the side areas, blowing out all the underground areas to get them. Maybe they have artifacts in them. The main thing that we're looking for in our logbooks are these right here, these swirly emblems. These are treasure chests with artifacts in them, and that is really the thing that we want the most. So I'm making sure I'm not taking that build disabling leech immunity modifier there. Okay, great. So obviously I'm doing a lot of talking. This is not the pace at which I would progress through a logbook. Usually I would just drop in and immediately start dropping all of my explosives, just pathing around, looking for stuff, going, zooming, zipping. And that really is the approach. That's the goal. You just want to zip through as quickly as you can, get all of the good rewards that you are able, but you kind of want to be in and out of a logbook in like 3 minutes or less. And so that's what I'm doing now. All right, excellent. I reached it on this one. So we can see here as I mouse over, it shows that this doorway is going to explode, which is perfect. Okay, we didn't get a boss in this map, but I also want to talk about bosses. Bosses will be indicated by a giant skull on the map. You will look at them and you will see them just the same way that you're looking for underground areas and side areas like over here. You'll also see the bosses. Bosses will inherit all of the rewards, all of the positives and negatives from all the remnants that you've hit along the way to them. And you want to make sure that you do juice them up. You don't want to juice them too much. You don't want to make them so that they just instantly kill you, but you do want to juice them up because they really can be super, super rewarding, and they will drop massive numbers of expedition vendor refresh currency. So on a Tujen or a Danig logbook, that could be like a lot of Divine's worth of reroll currency. I've gotten 30 or 40 Danig and Tujen reroll currency from a single one of their bosses before when I juiced them up really, really well. So you really want to make the most of those bosses appearing whenever you can. All right, we've hit the underground areas. We've kind of looped through here. We've gotten a few reward chests, and that's fine. Like, there are some useful rewards here. Getting heist rewards can be okay. Getting ultimatum rewards can honestly be better in this game mode than doing ultimatum itself. So now we're just going to zip on through. We're just going to hit the button, make the chain of explosions start rolling, and we're just going to follow it around and kill everything along the way, and then loot everything that drops. And then that is the extent of doing a high expedition logbook. What can I say? I was going to call it a heist logbook. No, not that. So we have 2 underground areas. I'm going to jump in here and just check them out while the explosions are continuing up above. And yeah, as you can see, I got some reward out of that. Got some artifacts out of that. That's pretty good. This area is full of dudes. Not a problem. And then a currency chest and another artifact chest. Perfect. A lot of artifacts out of that. That is exactly what we're looking for. The quest stuff you don't have to do. That's purely like flavor. You know, if you like the lore, you want to hear more about it, read more about it, hear more from Danig about how upsetting the results of all their expeditions are for them, you can do that. But we're going to be skipping by that for the moment, in the interest of being fast. Now, as we can see, the chance to block modifier that I gave all these guys is definitely making them a lot tankier. They would have all been shredded very easily if I wasn't giving them a 50% chance to not take damage. All right, we're near the end here, and you'll be able to tell that you have finished everything, you've completed everything in 2 ways. One, the music will stop, and usually, sometimes if you jump into an underground area and then jump back out, they won't do it, but usually they'll do a call out in the chat. They'll say like, for the Calgur, and then that'll be an indication that you have finished everything that was to be done. Ton of artifacts from that one. That was very, very profitable, that side area there. So at this point, I would just go through, I would clean up all the reward chests, click them all up, pick all the stuff up. I wouldn't leave it on the ground. And then there you go, you're done. And that's a logbook. You want to zip through those in about 2 to 3 minutes, not 5.5, and get all the artifacts and get onto the next logbook. That really is the entire gameplay loop for them, and you just do that to kind of stockpile a bunch of Tujen or Danig currency, and then you go trade with them and just basically buy a bunch of free money from Tujen, and that's kind of all there is to it. Now, I'll finish by talking about stash tabs. Is there any sort of stash tab stuff that you have to pay for? Nope, it's all free. The expedition locker you will interact with in Act 6 in town. As soon as you've dealt with the expedition NPCs, you can go over to that expedition locker and you can tap this little expedition locker affinity button in the bottom right corner. And just to kind of show off how it works, I'll pull out some vendor refresh currency and a logbook here. I'll go to my stash and then I'll just click those in, and instead of going in here, the affinity is turned on, so it goes into the locker. They're automatically sorted for you, and then you have the regex. You can look like, I want to look up at all the scythe logbooks. Boom, I have 2 scythe logbooks. Excellent. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a good mechanic, and you don't have to spend any real world currency on any fancy stash tabs to totally maximize its value either. So that's pretty nice real world quality of life too. All right, that's it. Expedition is an amazing League mechanic, really, really good at League start, a personal favorite, and I definitely think you should give it a try. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Bye.